Our reading today, it consists of excerpts from the Gospels about the birth of Jesus. When the angels had left them and gone into heaven, the shepherds said to one another, "Let us go now to Bethlehem and see this thing which has taken place, which the Lord has made known to us." So they went with haste and found Mary and Joseph and the child lying in the manger. When they saw this, they made known what had been told to them about this child, and all who heard it were amazed at what the shepherds told them. But Mary treasured all these words and pondered them in her heart. The shepherds returned, glorifying and praising God for all that they had seen and heard as it had been told them. Then Herod secretly called for the wise men and learned from them the exact time the star had appeared. Then he sent them to Bethlehem, saying, "Go and search diligently for the child, and when you have found him, bring me word so that I may also go and pay him homage." When they heard the king, they set out, and there, ahead of them, was the star they had seen at its rising, until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw that the star had stopped, they were overwhelmed with joy. On entering the house, they saw the child with Mary, his mother, and they knelt down and paid him homage. Then, opening their treasure chests, they offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And, having been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they left for their own country by another road.
It is a bit of a tradition amongst presidents of the UUA to offer a holiday message. This continues to this very day. Our special video is from former President Peter Morales, who gave the following holiday message in 2014.
We think of the holiday season as a time of giving and receiving gifts. As I look over the expanse of my own life, I have both wonderful and painful memories about giving and receiving presents. My fond memories involve selecting and giving a special gift that opened new possibilities, a telescope for our son, a special trip for our daughter. I also have painful memories when times were difficult and we simply could not afford to purchase much of anything. Most importantly, though, is that my fondest memories of the holidays are time spent together with people I love and gathering in community to celebrate and be generous together. The simple truth is that the most special gifts I have received are the love and support of others, not any of the things anyone has given me. When we give of ourselves, we give something precious. Think about that for a moment. You are the gift others most want to receive. We are gifts one to another. The most important gift any of us can give is our love, and love comes in many forms. Love is compassion. Love is kindness. Love is commitment to stay the course. Love is enduring support and encouragement. Love is taking risks because we care. Love is taking action that makes a difference. I'm recording this holiday message at First Unitarian Society of Denver, Colorado. Here is one example of Unitarian Universalists expressing their love by offering sanctuary to Arturo Hernandez Garcia, who faces deportation and separation from his family after 15 years in America. I'm deeply touched and inspired by their commitment, by their willingness to risk. This is love in action. This is a time of year when it's too easy to get distracted from what truly matters in life. Remember, you are the gift. Give yourselves away. May we ever be blessings to one another.
With all of the news these past few months, I've been looking forward to a time of peace on earth and goodwill to all. I thought it might be a welcome break for all of us in this Christmas season to hear about something perhaps more positive than what CNN has had to present lately. I remembered from my days as a cultural anthropology major in college that there are just a handful of societies in the world that don't engage in warfare. Granted, you have to look long and hard to find them, but they do exist. Actually, you have to look all the way to Papua New Guinea to find a culture that has no intertribal warfare. Now, this doesn't mean that there is no conflict or disagreement, just that they don't resort to physical violence to resolve their disputes. What do? Instead, well, when they're upset with someone, they give each other yams. That's right, they give gifts instead of fighting with each other. Now, by yams, we're not talking about those orange things with marshmallows that you'll be eating for dinner on Christmas. No, these are long tubers that they cultivate and grow in the ground and can grow anywhere from 3 to 6 feet long. Being a tribal society, there are precise rules around giving gifts to each other. There's no money, of course, so the only way that you can tell who is atop the social hierarchy is by their ability to grow and give away food. Here's how it works. If I'm angry with you, then my tribe will drop off a big pile of yams at your village. Sort of a taunt. See how good we are? We can spare all this food. Now, the social rules then dictate that you have to give me something in return. You're in my debt. And if you want to avoid being shamed, then you have to give me at least as many yams as I gave you. And a little bit more too if you can. Now I owe you yams and the burden shifted back to me. And so it goes on like this until someone just can't spare the yams anymore, in which case the group that gave the most yams are declared the winner of the Yam Wars. I'm sure Yam Wars is probably the next show that Food Network will produce in 2021. Now, I don't know how gift giving works in your family, but I hope it isn't anything like this. Then again, perhaps this tribe in Papua New Guinea has a point. Rather than beating each other up or at worse, killing each other, they feel shame for not being able to be as generous as their neighbors. Expect to hear this story again when it comes around to pledge time in a few months. They feel shame to the point of admitting defeat in their dispute when they can't reciprocate the gift. Now, granted, in this scenario, gift giving is not the jolly activity we normally associate it with, but the folks in New Guinea understand that at the heart of a gift, there is a relationship. What we give other people says something about the relationship that exists between us. They believe this so strongly in their culture that gift giving replaces warfare. But even in our culture, we understand that a gift is more than a material object. It is a symbol of our relationship to the person we have given it to. I guess this confusion of the object for the symbol is understandable. Christmas and other gift-giving holidays account for a sizable chunk of the American economy. And in our culture, giving gifts has kind of become a way of life. Purchasing material goods is expected. But there is more to it than mere materialism. Just ask my cousin John. He learned the hard way about the symbolic power that gifts have at Christmas and what they say about our relationships. Now, before I begin this story, I should preface it with the ending. They all live happily ever after. Bear this in mind as we hear about John and his then girlfriend, Shayna. John and Shayna had been dating for a year and things were getting serious. They had moved in together just a couple of months earlier, and everyone knew where this was headed. Wedding bells. Now, my cousin John was never accused of being the sharpest tool in the shed, as his dad liked to say. A good guy, but a little clueless when it came to relationships, and especially shopping for that special lady in his life. What would Shayna want? He racked his brain. He wandered around the mall, peering into shops, trying to think of what she was into and what gift might match that interest. And then he saw it. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. You know, that stop motion animation show from the 1960s. And in the store was a doll of Rudolph, one of those things where you press the button and it moves back and forth and recites lines from the show. Shayna loves that show. It's cute. It's Christmassy. I can't go wrong, thought John. Now, as I said, John is not the sharpest tool in the shed. Now, I didn't see it, but he must have wrapped this present in a funny way. At least it looked strange from the outside. So Christmas morning comes, and Shayna sees this odd-looking gift under the tree. She's very excited and decides to open that present last. Very well. John's confident that the Rudolph's going to go over big. Shayna tears open this present, holds up the doll, and bursts into tears. John is confused. He showed her the button where you press it and the doll dances back and forth, says lines from the show. Shayna runs into the bedroom and slams the door. What on earth did I do wrong? John asks himself. Well, I didn't see how he wrapped it, but apparently to Shayna, and through the power of hopefulness, this final present appeared to her like a box from a jewelry store. You know, the kind that have rings in them. And with the holiday lights and the magic of Christmas, Shayna was expecting a holiday proposal. What she got instead was a Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer doll that danced and said lines from a kids' TV show. And right there, on Christmas morning, before any of the family visits and dinners had occurred, John and Shayna had one of the most epic fights in the history of their relationship. Now, I'm sure you can well imagine what was said during this fight. I probably don't need to relay to you the discussion points for and against. All I know is that the fight came to a conclusion when John confessed to Shayna that he was saving up for a ring and was going to surprise her in the spring before they went on their vacation to California. And yes, as I said, there's a happy ending. They've been married for years now and have 3 kids. But I tell you what, ever since that Christmas, John learned 2 things. Be careful, not only what you buy your partner, but how it is wrapped, and never surprise your wife on Christmas morning. Now, John and Shayna's story shines some light on gift giving in our culture. It may not be a means of warfare like New Guinea, but people sure do get hurt by it. For John and Shayna, as for many of us, it all turned on expectation. Shayna had an expectation of what was under that wrapping paper. Whether she should or should not had that expectation was the crux of their fight. But so often our level of expectation dictates our happiness. If you're a kid expecting a PlayStation 5 and you get gloves, Christmas may be a total failure in your eyes. And if you're a parent of that kid, you feel the pressure to avoid that level of disappointment. You may want to meet and preferably exceed the expectations placed on you and the gifts you get until next year, when you have to top this year, and the following year has to top that. Chasing people's expectations eventually becomes a losing proposition. That happens because we're too caught up in the object and not enough in the symbol the object represents. We get too caught up in dazzling each other with bigger and more expensive things, and it's easy to lose track of the relationships that underlie those gifts. Gifts carry symbolic power of our relationships to each other. But it isn't the object that's the important part. The relationship is. Actually, you can see this. You need look no further than the very first Christmas to see this. Everyone knows that the 3 wise men brought the baby Jesus gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Most of us don't even know what frankincense and myrrh are, just that we hope the wise men kept the gift receipts for those too. But one can imagine that there were some pretty fancy gifts at the time. How were they received? Well, the wise men drop these gifts off at the house and then have to take off by a different road in order to escape Herod. Shortly thereafter, Joseph and Mary escape to Egypt because Herod's trying to kill all of the firstborn males. Matthew's description of how this interaction ended isn't particularly festive and rarely recreated in most Christmas pageants. In Luke, though, things are very different. What do the shepherds bring? Nothing, really, at least nothing we would call a gift. What they brought with them was a story. They told Mary and Joseph, and anyone who would listen, the story of the angels speaking to them and the heavenly host singing and how amazing it was that they were there at all. So all the shepherds had was a story and themselves. Well, how well does that go over? Beautifully. Verse 19 says, Mary treasured all these words and pondered them in her heart. Shepherds didn't need fancy gifts from faraway lands. They were the gift. Just their being there and the circumstances that brought them all there. That was the gift. Gifts are powerful symbols. They can disappoint us. They can make us chase the expectations of those we love. We can even shame each other and wage warfare by giving gifts. But at their very essence, a gift is about the one giving it. that they are there at all, and that we are held in a complex web of love and caring. That is the true gift of the season. It is what awaits you under the tree. I think Peter Morales has it right when he says that we are the gift we give each other. Obviously, Peter probably had in mind some sort of meeting or family get together that was possible back in 2014 that isn't workable for most of us this year, as we heard in Joys and Sorrows. I'm fortunate that my sons get to be here with me this year, but last week we were pretty worried that their mother may have contracted COVID. Fortunately, she tested negative, and they were able to be with me after all. When I picked them up yesterday to stay with me for the first time in months, that felt like all the gift I needed. I think most years, Peter Morales's message would be nice, but most likely fall on deaf ears. No one would be taking back something they purchased because of it. But this year, I think we all collectively understand what he's talking about. With the economy down and travel restricted, we no longer take for granted that we are the gift to each other. We know that now. Oh, to be in the presence of those whom we love, especially this time of year. That certainly would be the greatest gift to have. And God willing, it will be one that we can all enjoy together next year. May we be fully present with each other this Christmas and not overly distracted by the material demands of the season. Be present for the real thing, not the distraction. And in that vein, I want to end with a poem from the UU minister Edward Searle, who reminds us that silence is our theme for the month of December. He writes, "After the stores have closed and final presents have been wrapped, beyond the ding, ding, ding of Salvation Army handbells, beyond the steady, efficient computer click of cash registers, beyond the sometimes gay, sometimes reverent drone of Christmas music, there will come the deep silence of Christmas Eve. It is the thoughtful silence of watching and waiting, the silence of the winter's longest night. You will look into the star-pocked dome of infinity and shiver compulsively, yet your heartbeat will give such wonderful comfort that a feeling of utter holiness becomes an unuttered prayer. And at that moment, you will know why the shepherds who kept watch through the night heard the hosannas of a heavenly host." I love you. Merry Christmas and a very happy New Year. Amen. Now please join in singing